Hi, my name is Yvette LeMasters, and I'm doing a video for my post-travel assignment, and that's because I went to Berlin as a study abroad student from the end of May till the beginning of June, and this video is capturing some of the thoughts and experiences regarding Berlin and what I learned.
You would not believe your eyes. Don't wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation.
Important lesson you learned was on the 2010 Berlin Summer Abroad program?
Well, I think the thing that I learned the most was I needed to be flexible and I needed to chill out. And I like to be the team leader. And this time I took a back seat and tried to let others lead. It was quite effective, especially since it was a new culture and a lot of new things to experience, new languages, new experiences, new places. And it was actually better that way.
Why don't you tell me about some of the assignments? Do you feel that any of them enhanced your learning?
Because first of all, the Friday presentations I thought were really, really good for us as students, especially because we learned a lot about working with the client. Overall, I thought Friday presentations were really good for learning, and also I enjoyed the agency visits because it was practical learning for our field. McCann Erickson was awesome to learn about how to strategically put together a campaign from beginning to the end. And I really enjoyed as well meta design because I had never heard of sound branding before this trip. And lastly, Wall-E was the last agency visit I really, really enjoyed, and that was because they were so innovative. Not only was there advertising, but the actual pieces of street signs and street pieces were actually quite beautiful and effective for advertising.
So you feel that you had any personal things you want to accomplish, any personal objectives while on the trip?
Well, actually in my pre-travel assignment I mentioned 3 goals that I had, personal goals that I wanted to accomplish while I was on the trip. And I accomplished 2 of them, which was pretty good. 2 out of 3 isn't too. Second thing that I wanted to do, which was unfortunately wasn't possible, was to go to a promotional event. And unfortunately there wasn't any that I knew of in town at the time. The third one was a personal goal to go to the concentration camp. The last thing along with the concentration camp was to see the Berlin Wall, which also was a great experience.
And in Miami, obviously 2 very, very different cultures. What did you expect going to Berlin, and were these things that you expected going to Germany? Were they confirmed? Were they challenged?
Well, actually, I think it's kind of interesting because something we had learned in theories class was about symbolic interactionism, and that's where you learn about culture through symbols and through other people by mutual conditioning. And actually, because Germany was a new city and culture for me, I had to take a lot of cues from the people that we were meeting. I found that Miami and Berlin are very different. People from Berlin are very punctual, and obviously Miami being a Latin culture is more on the relaxed side. We are usually late to meetings and there's a grace period as well. I expected to be a lot less traffic because a lot of people take the subway. That was true, there was less traffic than it was in Miami, but one thing I didn't consider, which was a challenge, was that the subway actually has rush hour as well, and that you also had to be patient waiting for a subway.
So given your experiences on this trip, what word of advice would you give to students?
Well, first I would tell students that you need to get the research done first, and you need to do it as quickly as you can because there's so much going on when you're in Berlin. So I would suggest that, of course, any student that went to Berlin would bring their own laptop. Make sure it's a laptop that's not very heavy. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times you're going to be trekking your laptop to and from school and the hostel. Some things that I would recommend for FIU to change would actually be to maybe give at least 2 cell phones per room. I know that we had 1 cell phone per room but I think that it would be beneficial to have 2 cell phones per room. Their suggestion would also be to have the hostel near IMK, because we spent a lot of time traveling back and forth from the subways. Suggestion would be to make the agency visits either during the morning or at night, something a little bit more steady, or at the same time, because when we have agency visits in the morning and the next day would be in the evening, it would be really hard to coordinate with the IMK students for our group presentation. Overall, I really enjoyed my trip to Germany, and Berlin was a beautiful city. Advertising was incredible, and I'm really glad that I went, and I'm really happy about the opportunity to go see Germany. Thank you, and I hope this video was informative.